What inspired me to write the first Scorned book was the fact that I hadn't written a joint book with Jason since The Legacy, and that was over 11 years ago in junior high school. When he approached me and let me know he wanted to actually write a story that was going to be in a, rather it was going to be different from any other story we have ever written before, I was intrigued. Not only was it going to be in first person, but it was taking a direction that was very controversial. At first, it sounded like a woman bashing story, but in the end, it turned out to be something completely different. I want to say it's because it's the most recent book that we wrote. But on top of that, it was the easiest to turn into a movie. I mean, there are no special effects. It's all about real life. It's all about real events that happen, just stretching it or changing it up a little bit. It's been fairly difficult to do so because, again, scenes won't work out the same way they have in the story. I mean, there's no way to get those same girls that you had the same experiences with and recreate it in the exact way that you want it. Because unfortunately, as it is to say, we're not all friends with those exes that hurt us, because whether it was we hurt them or they hurt us, contact or the way we were back then isn't the same, and it is hard to recreate. The central theme of the Scorned trilogy is following two brothers as they look back on the past while trying to prevent a friend from doing something that he may regret. I mean, by looking back on the past, they realize that all women have a certain pattern to what they do, and because of that, men turn out the way that they do. But on the second hand, because of how men are, women act as a certain way. I mean, it has its ups and downs. Again, we butt heads a lot because he has ideas, I have ideas. The way he sees my character is different from the way I see my character. The way he sees his character, I have no real role in that. But the way he wants me to act is different from the way I want to act. But I have to remember that this is a story. The way that character's acting may not be me, but though it is based on me. The easy parts are that he's readily available. We both worked on the story together, so the stories, I mean, basically are the same, so not much is changing. But again, because it's being adapted from a story, some elements did have to be changed, and whether I agree or disagree with it, that's where most of the bumping heads comes from. SCORNED-Sabbatical basically is a break from everything the two brothers have gone through. It wasn't touched upon in Scorned Volume 1, but Jason encountered another female. That female crushed him, and because of that, he has lingering feelings about what happened back then. Chris, on the other hand, seeing those lingering feelings, seeing how he reacts towards it, despite them being on vacation, is having doubts of his own about what the future entails. Through the story, both brothers get through their internal conflicts by maybe feeding on what the other person has said. There are two proposed Scorned movies to come after the Sabbatical, as well as the Scorned testimonials. That's a little difficult because right now we don't have the characters to support the roles that we need. The two main characters, Cedric and Ray, they're real characters per se. Their stories are real, but since it is a volunteer cast, it's not that easy to actually get someone to play that role. No one wants to be portrayed as that weak person that got hurt. So finding someone to actually play that role and have the time to dedicate it, because when you're a main star, you can't go half-assed. You have to go completely 100% into the project. So it's a little difficult to foresee if we'll have the cast ready for Scorned 2 and Scorned 3. Watching Jason interview people. He went first because the prior day I was approached by 3 girls, and then I was approached by a family about the movie, and I had explained already, and I gave him a little slack about how I was doing all the work, and he hadn't done anything yet. So he went first. He bit the bullet and went first and started to try and interview random people. At first, I was probably as nervous as he was because I wasn't sure how people react, how the people in Atlantis would react to us filming. But as we went along and nobody actually, the no's were rather soft and the yes showed that they were really enthusiastic, that made me feel a lot better, saying that, hey, you know what, the no's won't come too harshly, so I won't have to worry about that disappointment. I had to worry about who exactly I want to film. The problem with me is that I only want to film cute people, so any possible person that could have probably worked out, I would overlook because, yeah, they weren't cute enough for the camera. So here's a shout out to you, Marissa. You're really cute. There are a few. Mine personally is called High School Days. It's also a spin-off on the word days, D-A-Y-S. It is actually spelled D-A-Z-E, which kind of does apply to the story. What my character, which is Chibi, he's going to be going back in time. It's already his college days, and he's looking back on how it was in high school and how greatly he's grown. He went from this low self-esteem kid that not one person would look at to someone that he walks across the corner and everybody's going to look at him for various reasons, including his title as Playboy Innocence and his overall nature. Aside from that, there are also another 2 projects that Jason is working on. One is called Adnell's Crappy Show, and God knows what that's about, because I don't. And the Adventures of Super Theo and Monster Joey. Super Theo and Monster Joey are a little side story that the 2 kids actually came up with themselves. It's about Joey, who was, I guess, kidnapped when he was a child by monsters, but it didn't affect him until he got the shards that were sent down by Cosmos and Chaos. Cosmos and Chaos are the 2 gods that Jason and I will be playing to, add a little bit more of a story into it, because the 2 kids, you can only do so much with them. And Superhero Theo, he's there to combat against them. The thing is, the 2 kids are brothers. Whether they remember or know exactly what they're doing at the point when they both transform, again, I don't know. This is Jason's project. Writing the story wasn't hard. I mean, again, we were focusing on things that actually really did happen. The book is almost 100% genuine, real, down to the bone, everything that happened in real life. They talk about real events and everything. The movie had to be changed because you can't, transcribe what's on the book or words onto the big screen. As for filming, I mean, Jason wants very specific scenes, whether it be from 1 vantage point to 3 vantage points. Sometimes that does get tiring, but I mean, I do see the point of it. I've been there for the editing process, and I see how it actually works out and brings more movement when it does come out. As for acting, I've been compared to the likes of Denzel Washington and Will Smith. Love you, Sandra. Love you, Charlene. So acting isn't that much of a problem for me. The fact of the matter is that there is no such thing as acting in these stories, which we did that as to not turn off anyone else that has secondary roles in it. It's mostly riffing. We riff with each other. We have an overall idea of what we want to happen in the scene, but then it's all on the characters themselves to figure out what exactly they're going to say. Of course, from scene to scene to scene, or rather, different takes if the same scene, there'll be varying conversations, but that's the point of it. What one person didn't say in the first one, they might come out with something extraordinary in the third one. So, I mean, it's an experiment in its own, and it's been working out rather well. The session that we had between the boys went out perfectly, and nobody had making the website wasn't that difficult. I mean, I've been practicing, studying, whatever you want to call it, with it. Web design, graphic design, computer science, whatever you want to call it. I've been doing a lot with that to know how to create. The hardest part about the design itself was picking the color scheme, because I'm partial to black, gray, white. I don't really like color in my life, kinda. So that was the hardest part of it.